Today, we are going to continue our two-part series that we've organized on human resources in your meat processing business. We conducted a survey over the winter with about 1,200 meat processors from around the country, and labor was the top concern for most processors. Finding, attracting, and retaining good labor for your meat plant. And so the first part of this series, we talked about different ways to find and attract and retain good labor. And the second one, we're really going to talk about how to cultivate a positive workplace environment so that we can hold on to good employees and also produce quality and safe product. So I'm pleased to have with us Dr. Michele Pfannenstiel of Dirigo Food Safety in Yarmouth, Maine. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I'm sure because it's Maine, it has some strange pronunciation. And she's going to be talking about different strategies that meat processors can use to really create a positive workplace environment and produce quality and safe meat products in their plants. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michele. She's going to talk for about 40 minutes, and then we're going to have a good 15 minutes at the end for question and answer. If you do think of a question as we're going along, please pop it into the Q&A box, and we will make sure to get to it at the end of this session. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to Michele.
And I will unmute myself. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dr. Michele Pfannenstiel, and I am the CEO and founder of Dirigo Food Safety here in Yarmouth, Maine. And what I think we'll do is we'll just hop into the presentation. We have a lot to get through. These are incredibly important topics. So I'm going to share my screen and go to presentation mode, and then we'll just hop in. Please do ask questions. We're going to be taking questions at the end, as Rebecca said, and as I guess Mark said, and let's get started. So here we go. Play. All right. So we are here because what we want to do is create a positive environment in your business. And it's actually more than that. We want to create the business that you've always dreamed of being in. All right, we spend 80% of our waking lives with the people we work with. It might as well be a pleasant experience. Okay, so we also call this create the workforce you need without losing your mind. I mean, people are sweating and staying up nights trying to figure out these problems. And so my hope is that by the end of this presentation, you'll have some solid action steps that you can take to start creating the workforce that you need out of the workforce that you have. Okay. And we do it by creating not only safety and quality, as Rebecca said, but loyalty and trust, because it's only by creating thoughts and feelings and actions about loyalty and trust that we get where we need to be, because there are totally better ways of running our businesses than the ways that we are doing them now, right? Old ways are not working. The employment practices of our parents' generation simply, in many states, just don't exist anymore. Okay, and most folks who come to me feel like their employee conversations and their employee practices are holding them back as opposed to driving the business forward. And they keep explaining things, and they creates more turnover and decreases the chance of earning more money and really creating valuable employee conversations where everybody grows. And I know this isn't a conversation we're used to having in food production, but these are conversations that we're having in manufacturing worldwide. And this is how we drive ourselves forward. And so in this workshop, we are going to cover all of those different things so that you, the business owner, can be empowered to go out and create the workforce that you want. All right. But the problem is that this can like seem really, really overwhelming. All right. Workforce issues, there are like entire, panels in the USDA and congressional workshops and all of this sort of thing. But we're here to help you through all of that. Because here at Dirigo Food Safety, we are dedicated to specialty food businesses. And, I'm a veterinarian by training, and most of my work is with meat production companies. And we believe in sustainability through profitability. We're only sustainable when we're profitable. And that profitability comes through repeatable, scalable systems, whether it is your HR system, your HACCP system, or your GMP system. Repeatability and scalability is the key. Now, in the HR system, there are actually a few other things, which is the 5 steps we're going to talk about, but there are ways to make it repeatable and scalable. And so I guess my question for the audience participation is are you in on that mission? Like, are you about the conversation about sustainability and profitability to build that business that you've really always dreamed of? And if so, I'm going to make you this really bold promise. You're going to learn these 5 steps, okay, about where all of this falls apart in our business, all right? And then you're going to know exactly how to have the conversations to create the workforce that you want, okay? So let's do a little housekeeping here, all right? Do yourself a favor. Don't multitask, all right? Put the phone on, on do not disturb and turn your email off. Grab a pen, grab a paper, close your door, and beware, there are a lot of slides in this deck. I am a Yankee. Despite some of the way I talk wicked fast, as we say around here. Okay, so, but Rebecca is standing by to get questions and to read questions at the end. And here's the first concept I really want you guys to understand, is that our brains are charged with the idea that doing things the way we have always done it is the way we should always do it. It's very hard for our brains to change. And when you start thinking about approaching the world from the way that I'm going to teach you, your brain is going to say, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And no, we're not, this is ridiculous. And that feeling, like that buzzing feeling, that, nausea or headache or cold sweat when you think about doing some of these things, take a deep breath and work through those feelings, because it means you're on the right path. All right. There is no advancing without going through all of the thoughts and feelings that you're going to have to go through to get to from where you are right now to where you want to be. And we all know that. And I just want to make a note that if your brain is telling you to quit, it probably means you're doing the right thing when it comes to this work. Okay, and I promise if you stick around throughout the whole webinar, okay, I will talk to you and give you a special offer on our masterclass that I'm only doing for NMPAN participants. I love the NMPAN community, and I'm going to do those for the NMPAN listeners and the community out there at large. All right, so if you were all with me and we're all good, let's get going. So this is me. This picture was taken actually on the wall behind me. I am a veteran veterinarian. I served at Fort Monmouth in New Jersey and West Point in upstate New York in the U.S. Army Veterinary Corps. And I have basically made a consultancy out of my captain's job. And I have hundreds of clients. I work worldwide, really. I teach worldwide. I write food safety systems in several different countries. And our idea is that we are empowering operations. In this particular talk, we're talking about empowering your employee operations, but lots of different ways to empower operations. We love what we do, and it's truly my pleasure to be able to be here with you all. And so one of the things that I have noticed and how I came to this work is that so many of my clients come to me with what they say are HACCP problems or FSA problems or whatever, and it turns out they're really sort of actually employee problems. we have a saying around here that most business problems are personal problems disguising themselves as business problems, because the same person that you are at home or with your friends or whatever is the person that you are at work, and the same issues come up because there are only a certain number of issues that we have in the world, okay? And they repeat themselves at work, and these thought methodologies are designed to create new patterns of thought. All right. And so this particular charcutier, you know, those of you who know me know that I do a lot of work with value-added production. The amount of turnover was painful and staggering to these folks. And not only was their turnover killing them, they needed to get a third-party audit so that they could satisfy a new big customer. But as any of you who have passed a third-party audit knows, you can't do that if you keep turning over your QA staff. Like that, you're never going to pass your audit if your QA staff isn't keeps having to be retrained. So we started having these Strive conversations, and it really created a massive difference in the workplace. Okay, so let's talk about this and how you create your own great workforce. All right, so here are the 5 steps. We call this Strive, okay, and it's a paradigm. Now you'll notice there are 6 letters in the word Strive, but the steps are the first 5 letters. And we're going to go through those because Strive creates empowered employees. And it is empowered employees that you want in your workforce. But first, I'm going to give you a bonus, all right? This is how we think about things and how I think about things with my clients. Because not only am I a food safety consultant, I'm a business coach. And we will talk about how important it is to have the right mindset to getting this stuff done. Study after study and research proves that the most sustainable, profitable, and best places to work are places that understand emotional intelligence is what gets us to our end goal, to the mission, to fulfill the mission of the company. Okay. In business systems, you have individual emotional intelligence, you have group emotional intelligence. And so that's how does your group work together. So that's the QA team, the kill floor team, the sanitation team. All right. But then you have cross-boundary emotional intelligence. And the most successful companies have high levels of cross-boundary group emotional intelligence. And it's incredibly important if you want to create a good workforce to understand who needs coaching at what level. All the research shows that businesses that employ coaching methodologies, and it doesn't mean hiring coaches, it means training managers to be able to coach their reports. It means having CEOs who understand the benefits of coaching and how we approach coaching with people. All right. Those companies, their rates of return, their sustainability, their profitability blow out of the water other companies that simply don't think coaching is necessary. If you're looking for the research on that, it's all at HBR, the Harvard Business Review. They've really led the way on this. Carol Dweck at Stanford and Growth Mindset, her book Mindset, also talks a lot about this, okay? And so here at Dirigo Food Safety, we use something called The Model by Brooke Castillo, who is a life coach. She runs the Life Coach School podcast. I highly recommend it. And here is her model. The idea is that we have circumstances. Those circumstances create our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our results. And if you are not getting the results that you want, if you go through this model, it only works 100% of the time to help you understand how you are thinking and feeling so that you are getting the results that you're getting rather than the results that you want. And many times in food, this is what we run across. Now, I will tell you, this is becoming less and less prevalent. All right, so we have this circumstance. A circumstance is something everybody can agree on. It's an inanimate object. It's something that exists. All right, government food regulations. And the thought that most people come up with is that government food regulations really interfere with what I want to go and do in the world. And this creates outrage, it creates resentment, it creates anger and vitriol. And so you don't create your compliant documentation and you don't do the things you need to do to comply. And well, unfortunately, that means that you don't have the necessary documentation and you live in fear, okay? And that's not the result most people want when they decide to go into business, okay? So if we try a more empowering thought, we can actually create a different reality where if we take the same circumstance, and instead of thinking that the government is out to get me, we instead think that food regulation is a part of life, okay? We are one of the most regulated industries in the country. Well, then maybe that creates feelings around determination instead of resentment, and just showing up and doing the work and getting the compliant documentation done, and then you have what you need and you get on with life. But here's what I want you to try on, is that in that mindset, you can actually use a more empowering thought to create an even better reality, which is that you can use government regulations, you can use best practices to actually grow your business. And then we start creating excitement around doing all of this. And so we create all of this compliant documentation, and we're excited to go out and share it with our buyers, with our customers, with the people with whom it is important for us to share our brand. And not gonna lie, the end result is you book business with the clients that you love to work with. You create an employee infrastructure with the employees you want to work with. Okay, so you're gonna see this model as we go through the slides, and I want you to be thinking about, as you go through, how does this apply to me, okay? So that you can really take away from this the conversations that you need to have, okay? So if all that makes sense, let's get back to strive, okay? So here's the first thing. The S stands for safe. Employees must feel safe at work, all right? And there are 3 ways that employees can feel, can foster safety at work. Physical safety, emotional safety, and financial safety. This is the reality of the world that we live in. If people do not feel emotionally safe at work, what are there are thoughts that are driving them, but is there bullying going on? Are people bored? What are the ways your employees are interacting with each other, and how are you assessing how are employees interacting with each other? Okay, that's probably the hardest one to deal with. You know, if you have workplace bullying going on, you know, if you have workplace sexual harassment going on, and I will tell you, there is no tolerance for either of those things. It is not if it comes back to bite you, it is when it will come back to bite you, and you must shut that down. The era of the Me Too movement is here, and time is up, and that is just the reality that we live in, okay? Physically safe. I have never been into a plant where they do not place worker safety as a high priority, and they don't place food safety as a high priority. Like, the two of them go hand in hand. And I've never been in a place where they're doing workplace safety really badly and food safety really well. It just can't happen, okay? So we talk about keeping physical hazards out of our food, but then the question is are your employees feeling physically safe at work? Because that has significant effects on your food safety planning, because they will do things to feel physically safe at work. And then finally, financially, okay, are people feeling financially safe? There is a lot of economic angst and worry right now in our country. And for owners, it is imperative that you feel financially safe and you are making decisions out of a mindset of financial safety and stability that you need, and that you've figured out what you need to think in order to feel financially safe, like what needs to happen, okay? Because you won't make good decisions if you yourself don't feel financially safe. If you know your employees are not financially safe, it's tremendously difficult for them to do a good job. Okay. And you have to be able to have those conversations. And having those conversations is a matter of asking your employees and listening to them, asking penetrating questions. Okay. If there was a way for us to improve how people felt at work, what would it be? And then sit there and listen as if you 100% love your employees. Love your employees and ask these questions, and they will tell you what you need to know to create a safe workforce. Okay? So these are some of the different things that you can look at and see if you have circumstances in your business that lead to people not feeling safe. Go through this list and have a real honest conversation with yourself about where you fall on here. You know, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, this never happens. 10, I see it on an everyday basis. The lower your score, the better you're doing. Most of us, it'll be a Gaussian distribution, okay? And figure out how you can have the conversations to lower those scores to what we need them to be, okay? It is totally okay to feel uncomfortable. And you're gonna feel uncomfortable, and that's how you grow. All right, remember, if your brain doesn't want to do it, you are totally on the right path. Okay, so the next one is that employees have to be trained. And the question is that are employees trained to competence? Are they trained to excellence? And what are you doing to create that growth mindset and the development of your employees? And I think most places that I have been in, they feel like, oh, well, you know, we do GMP refresher training once a, year, whether we need to or not. And they don't put CE, continuing education, into the budget. You know, the American Association of Meat Processors is having their annual meeting. That's a great place for people to get CE. I am, of course, from a medical background, and we do CE all the time. I have to have CE, and I build CE into my budget for my employees. Okay. So are you providing those opportunities? And then when you send people or you give people the opportunity for continuing education, even if it's a book from the library, is it being utilized? Like, are they, if you send them off to a meeting, are they coming home, and are you considering what they learned and implementing it in your system? Okay. And so you can see, I hope by now, that the way to figure out whether or not where your employees are on the paradigm is by talking to them and listening to them, okay? And when we talk to people and we listen to them in ways that make sense for them, we create respect in our workplace environment. And respect is a positive cycle cross-boundary team emotional intelligence. We listen to each other, we acknowledge the work that we do and the potential for what people can do, okay? People cannot go back and change the past. No matter how much coaching you get, you can't go back and change the past. People have possibility and have potential. And do you treat your employees as if they have possibility and potential, or are they cogs in a wheel? Which do you prefer to be treated as? And how do you go about treating yourself as if you have possibility and potential? Because unless you can do these things within yourself as the person who's running the HR system and the employee system, it's surpassingly difficult to hand it off to somebody to like try and nurture all of this stuff with somebody else, right? So acknowledge your own abilities and recognize your own potential in what you're building or what you want to build or how you want to move your team forward so that you can do it with everybody else. Here we go. All right. So some of the concrete ways you can do this is ask other people's opinions and listen to them. you know, when I was in the Army, we had training all the time about, you know, respecting everybody's differences and different abilities. And one of the easiest things to do is that if you have a diverse workforce that has diverse holidays, you can actually stay open longer, okay? Because you know, some people want one holiday off and some people really don't care, and they're perfectly happy to work. And so understanding different abilities and different ways people are in the world, and creating possibility out of those differences is incredibly important. And it's also of surpassing importance that you understand the cultures in your workplace. We have a food system that is predicated on the backs of low-paid immigrant employment, and I don't have to belabor the point about what's going on in immigration in this country, but the respect of the work that people actually do is incredibly important, and people understand how you treat them. And if you want an empowered workforce, you got to treat everybody really, really well, regardless of the ethnicity that they come in, as. Okay, and so that sort of respect is lived every single solitary day. All right, so are you seeing any places for improvement? Take a deep breath and take a thought on how you can actually work on this in your own employment. Okay, so invested in. All right, this is the fourth one in our paradigm. Are employees feeling invested in? This mostly goes down to a individual emotional intelligence, because there are many, many, many different ways to help your employees feel like they are invested in. And so these are 6 different things. Again, these are from HBR. You can probably find different ways to do it, but one of the best conversations I had at SQF last year was with a company that figured out how to get a contract nurse and share it around with some other food companies. And once a week, they had a nurse come. Okay, now I realize that may be out of the range of what a lot of us can do, but it was some really out of the box thinking, okay, because employees were allowed to bring their kids, okay, and they had a place for kids to go when they were sick. You know, and it was an investment that people made, because absenteeism, because of having to care for a sick relative, was so high. All right. So how are you investing in your employees, and what sort of goals are you setting for them? You know, the goal setting and meeting goals and continually ratcheting up the kind of goals that you set actually builds resilience in your employees and gives them a growth mindset. You know, the vast majority of what we do out in the world is a learned and learnable skill. So if you want to become more emotionally intelligent, I assure you it is a learnable skill, the same way that cutting a beef carcass, the way Carrie Underley cuts a beef carcass, is a learnable skill. Okay. Now we have different talents and attributes and things like that. In the whole world, you know, I could practice 10,000 hours and I will never be a brilliant small animal surgeon. Okay. But if you have a growth mindset that you can learn how to do things, it doesn't mean going back and getting another degree. You can think and you can do internet research and learn how to do things. Okay. Some of the other ways to make your employees feel like you're investing in them: workspace design. Okay. There are lots of different ways that we can design our workspace, and doing a Lean Six Sigma process where your employees are not walking back and forth and exhausting themselves or pushing product back and forth not only improves how your employees actually feel about the company, because they've, you know, reduce walking back and forth over concrete floors all day, but it improves profitability. And so those are, you know, driving waste out of our system through good workplace design is just another example of how we can do this. Okay. And so we look at investments in employees, and I'm talking about doing more than just the company pizza party or the, you know, semi-annual birthday cake, or God help me, the one that everybody has is the Christmas party. And here's what we do for Christmas around here is I pay for a half day off for everybody because I love my employees, but you know what? I love them year round, and I'm not, you know, we're not going to do force-fed family fun at a holiday time because that seems to be culturally appropriate in America. You know, so do what's right for your employees. Some employees love the Christmas party. Knock yourself out, man. All right, but make sure the money that you're spending is meaningful to the employees, and you're not just doing it to do it and to check off a box. Okay, and how can you develop those conversations about what investments will be meaningful for your employees, right? Because it's not just about you. It's about really the process of thinking around what do your employees need. And this gets to the major driving force that we have here at Dirigo Food Safety, which is there are people in the world that you are meant to serve and others not so much. And it is your job to go out and serve the people that you are meant to serve. That you hired somebody, you have committed to a service relationship with them, to serve them so that they can serve your business. And by ensuring that they feel safe at work, that they feel trained at work, that you respect them, you invest in them, okay, and you show that you value them, and you make it the workplace that is a dream workplace for you and for them, okay, where we create cross-boundary emotional intelligence, where we really value people, okay? We have compassion for what they're going through, all right? People bring their whole selves to work. And while we might always wish that we were 100% happy every day of the week, I've got news for you. You're going to be happy about 50% of the time if you're working really hard at it. The rest of the time, it's probably going to kind of suck. And that's the nature of being human. All right. But if we value the people who they are as they come to work, and we commit ourselves to being in service to them, all right, the same way we commit ourselves to being in service to the people who give us money for a product, then that will generate a level of leadership in your teams, in your facilities, both individual leaders, team leaders, and cross-boundary leaders that you need to move forward into the business that you always dreamed of making. Nobody dreamed of making a business where they were, you know, arguing with people all of the time. This is not when you said, wow, I'm going to go make salami for a living. I guarantee you that's not what you were thinking, okay? That I really, truly love HR problems, all right? And so creating a growth mindset so that you understand, so that your employees understand how they are valued at work. Are you only looking at results? Are you looking at effort? Sometimes we really do have to look at results, okay? You know, our critical control points are pretty black and white, and we either meet them or we don't meet them. However, that being said, if you are, for example, not meeting your critical control points, what are the efforts that your employees are putting in to meet them? Because I guarantee you they're putting some effort in, all right? I've never been in a workspace, even in the ones where they're having massive problems, where most employees weren't trying to do the right thing. They might be failing to get there, okay? But it doesn't mean that their effort shouldn't be acknowledged, and if not, maybe not rewarded if they're not actually getting to the end point of like meeting the critical control points in this example, but their efforts need to be acknowledged and built upon, okay? Imagine, you know, if instead of, you know, the common example around this is that you take a math test and you get a 50 on it. Well, in the American grading system, 50 is a fail. If you only get 50% of your way there on meeting a critical control point, that's a fail, but you can't expect to address that by saying, one, you are a failure employee. If you want somebody to have a growth mindset, you say, wow, we got 50% of the way there. What's stopping us from getting the other 50% of the way there? Okay. And we reward effort, not intrinsic ability, because at some point your employee is going to top out on their intrinsic ability. And if you have not been continuously rewarding effort, they're never going to move any further. And the same goes for you. If you have been told you are smart for your entire life, it is every research paper out there shows how demotivating that is. Okay. Sure. Maybe somebody is a naturally great meat cutter. That's awesome. I believe naturally great meat cutters exist. I also believe naturally great meat cutters work really, really hard to get even better. Okay. And so create that growth mindset and allow people to fail. Okay. We act, we fail, and we learn. This is what corrective action records are for. Okay. And if you let people fail without fear of retribution, that is when you know you have created a company that values your employee. Okay. All of these things can be created through leadership programs. There are leadership programs out there all over the place that are teaching this stuff, that come in and they will work with your employees. Because imagine what you could do if your employees weren't afraid of failing, if you weren't afraid of failing. You would create empowered employees who could stop the line before things got really, really bad. Okay? And we all know that really, really bad is a recall. But if you can stop it before you get to that point, you never have to go through the time and money and heartache of a recall. And if you create an employee environment where people can see something and say something, as we say, without fear of retribution, that's when you know you have an empowered workforce environment. And how do you know if people can say something without fear of retribution? Go in and ask. All right, don your battle rattle, put on your PPE, all right, and go into your workspace, onto your production facility floor, and look. You miss more by not looking than by not knowing, okay? And see if people are doing the right thing. If you have a camera system, one of the best ways that you can do this without actually having to put on your battle rattle is when people do the right thing, they wave to the camera. When they know they have washed their hands the right way, they wave to the camera. When they know they have, a piece of meat falls on the floor, they pick it up and they put it in the trim sink, and then they go and they wash their hands and their knife or whatever your process is before they go back onto the line. They wave at the camera. All right, and that allows employees to acknowledge themselves. And then when you're going through the videos that we all spent bajillions of dollars implementing those video systems, all you have to look for is how many times people are waving their hands at the camera. No waves. People are not empowered to do the right thing and acknowledge that they have done the right thing. Simple, easy way to look at that. Okay? Because the ability of your employees to stop the line is the sum total of how they can be in their workplace environment. And those are the people who can actually protect your food safety and your food quality. And if they can't stop the line without fear of retribution, you have no functioning food safety system and you have no functioning food quality system. All right? And so when we think about it, is it worth it to think all of these things around surviving a recall? Okay. And here's what I'm going to tell you is that you can create all of these different realities. All right. If you find yourself in these situations, this is a recall example. This sucks. We can handle it. Okay. If you're having an employee bullying situation, this sucks because it sucks for everybody involved. But if you've created emotional intelligence for yourself, you can create the determination to get through it and to handle it. Okay? And you get to do what needs to be done. You de-escalate problems, if at all possible, and you get through your day. Okay? And so I'm asking you to create the time to work on this. And what does that mean? All right. Get yourself a journal. If you need one, write me. I will send you one. These are like, we have these in my business because I so believe in writing. If you need a journal, just write me. I'll put one in the mail to you and send it. Okay. 10 minutes. Spend 10 minutes every day, you know, like for a week. 10 minutes on Monday. All right. Start next Monday. It's before the holiday. Answer the question, do people feel safe? What are my thoughts on workplace safety? Financial safety, emotional safety, and physical safety. Next day, training. Next day, respect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Spend 10 minutes, and I guarantee you, if you get into the habit of writing your thoughts down for 10 minutes every day, you'll be golden. That is the trick to emotional intelligence, okay? Ask the right questions. Make the time. Okay, I know it may sound nuts. I do this every day, but we've been here before, right? Okay, and you're after getting this done, and you've got to talk about what's the one big result of what you are doing. Okay, because when you are out there selling, people are not buying your food. They are buying your solution to their problem, okay? And if you can't be that solution because your workforce is not letting you, then you're not going to be out there solving that problem, okay? And so think about, as you go through these HR systems and you want to convince yourself, what are the financial, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual benefits that you're going to get when you do this? All right. And that's what's going to convince you to sit down 10 minutes every day, think about what conversations that you need to have, and then go out and have those conversations. Okay. These are sales conversations. If you do not have a good workplace environment, you must approach these as sales conversations, that you are solving problems for a target customer in your business. Okay. Stop talking about all the features of their job and start talking about the benefits that you are trying to create. All right? So that's what you have to go out and do. Get over the overwhelm, find the time. All right? We've been here, I guess it's going to be 45 minutes really soon. All right? You're going to go out and you're going to think about this, okay? And figure out, make yourself 90, look at the 90-day year. What are you going to do in the next 90 days? Start by doing your 10 minutes every single day, okay? Do a 90-day plan. Think about it. You're going to write and you're going to rewrite, and it's going to be okay. You're not writing the Bible. And I promise you can do this. All right? So, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, okay, are you feeling overwhelmed, or are you feeling like you've got this? And if you think I've delivered value, what I'd like to ask you, all right, is what if you would want to work with us to work on these problems, okay? And for sticking with us through the webinar, I'm going to give you an offer about getting all of this together, okay? Because time is the most precious resource your money cannot buy, right? You don't have to do it alone. That's what we're here for, okay? Think about what it would take to be the leader that you have always dreamt of being. You started a business for a reason, okay? That leadership takes time, and that leadership takes effort. And so if you want to create this change, how are you going to solve those problems? Would you be willing to take 6 weeks to solve those problems? All right. January 2019, I'm going to open up my masterclass for meat producers only. We're going to have this only for NMPAN subscribers. All right. And I'm going to know your NMPAN because you're going to come through this webinar and some other stuff that I'm going to be doing. All right. And it's a masterclass where every week for 6 weeks, we are going to do this. I normally charge close to $3,000 for doing this. And I'm, because I so believe in the NMPAN mission, I'm cutting that down, and I'm doing it like when everybody actually has time to do it, because I'm starting another one in the fall, but I don't think any meat cutters are going to join me for that one. All right. And if you get in touch with me, I will put you on the waiting list for that masterclass. And if you're not quite ready for that and you want to work with us, I will give you a USDA compliant recall plan. We believe that recall plans are so important, we give them away because you have to, USDA requires that you have one, and we're happy to give you ours. 100% free. All right? Get your brain in the right spot. And if your brain is saying, oh my God, I can't do this, know that that is just your brain being your brain, and your prefrontal cortex, as we say, can overcome all of that. All right, so go out there and get the businesses that you want to build. All right, what you got, Rebecca?
Thank you, Michelle. The very first question was from Howard, and he asked if he could get a copy of the presentation.
Sure.
Could we email it to all of the attendees who were present today?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Great.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
One of my questions is, I know a lot of meat processors who get started because they like cutting meat, and they don't necessarily like people. Maybe they like animals and they like meat, and they like to turn on their music and cut meat. And then they grow their businesses, and then they have to start hiring people. And that's where the friction begins, because maybe they're introverts or curmudgeons or what have you. And now they've got all these people they've got to manage. And I see that as a tension on farms and in meat processing businesses often. So what would you say to that introverted curmudgeon meat processor who now has all these employees he's got to deal with, and really just wants them to all go away, but he has to have them to make his business function? How do you kind of help transition those folks into being better human resources managers?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing to know is that there are people who run $100 million businesses that are introverts, and they are very successful at running, 9-figure enterprises. And it doesn't actually have to do with introversion or extroversion. It really does have to do with that growth mindset. If you are going to make the commitment to employees, you have to make the commitment to yourself, that you are going to get out of the thought patterns that you've created, that you're no good at HR, you're no good at handling people, you're no good at doing whatever it is that the conversation is around being no good at, that you're not going to have those conversations with yourself, and you're going to train yourself out of them. I mean, it takes work, you're like, people, we believe these things around ourselves because it's thoughts we keep thinking over and over and over again. And so if you give yourself the chance to not think those thoughts, you'd be amazed at the transformation that you can have. And then the other one is that as you're sitting down and thinking, is scaling the right decision for you. We have this idea in American business that you just have to keep growing and growing and growing and growing, because that's what we do. Scale is not the right answer for everybody. That's okay. We need food at all different levels. We need food that's sold at the farmer's market, and we need food that's sold in the grocery store, and we need food that's sold across state lines. And so is scale the right answer for you? And I work with a lot of clients where the first question I ask them is, who is your ideal client? And they can be making the exact same product, okay, and servicing 2 different target markets, and they have 2 completely different businesses. So the first question is that if you find yourself really hating the HR aspect of your life, go back to that. Who's my target market? Who do I really like selling to? How do I service them in a way that doesn't create insanity in my own self?
Yeah. And conversely, there's also the aspect of scaling up to the point where your business can support actually hiring a human resources manager who thrives on that kind of work. That's
Right.
another way to go about doing it, right?
Right, right. Make that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Make that commitment to where you can hire somebody who knows what they're doing and can have
Mm-hmm.
these conversations.
Mm-hmm. What aspect of Strive is the hardest to actually implement that you've seen sort of on the ground?
It's the do employees they're really kind of two parts. One is having the honest conversation with yourself as you're doing the initial assessment. Okay, nobody wants to think that you can see the result that you're getting: high absenteeism, high turnover, that sort of thing. You can see the results, but then understanding with clarity how you got that result and what different result you want to create. Okay. And being honest with yourself about what you need to do to get there. There are a lot of people who stop at the S part of it because it's too emotionally difficult. It's too emotionally difficult to understand that you have some pretty serious workplace bullying, sexual harassment, that sort of thing going on, and it's rampant in our workforces. It's rampant in food, and they stop there because they're afraid of the work. They're afraid of what they're going to find out. We can do hard things. Make the commitment to do hard things. And that's how you overcome that.
Yeah, and just being really honest with yourself in that
Right.
assessment phase. That's got to be the challenging part. And I imagine a lot of processors, especially those that struggle to find decent labor, may feel that they don't have any other options, like the workforce that they have, the problems that they have. They're not going to be able to find anyone else that operates differently, right?
Right. 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 I mean, it's. I'm not gonna lie. These are really challenging conversations. They're challenging conversations to have. They're challenging conversations to have across all sectors of the American economy. So it's not just us that's having these kinds of conversations, but there are huge issues with workforce and workforce development and things like that. But this is a way to change that, and you don't have to change it all at once. If you have trouble hiring people, there are some economic realities. The lobster processors here in Maine have by and large started the season with significantly less than a full complement of employees. Significantly less. And it's very, very difficult. But you know what? There are economic solutions to that. They're not going to produce as much. When you don't produce as much, prices go up. There's, unfortunately in food, there are a lot of factors that go into it. So there are not any real pure economic plays that we can talk about. But those are the commitment. You have to make the commitments to solve those problems. In order to actually start solving them.
I have a question regarding the respect part of Strive. So you mentioned sort of respecting or acknowledging people's abilities. But I always feel a little bit of conflict between acknowledging people's abilities while also simultaneously pushing them to improve and to maybe try harder or get out of their comfort zone. That seems to be kind of a tricky balance right there. Do you have any advice for how you do that balance?
Well, I think you can create a company culture of getting out of your comfort zone. So I'm not going to lie. I suspect having the conversations that you need to have to implement Strive, not in the comfort zone of probably most of the people who are listening. Okay. But if you create a company culture of where we do hard things, okay, we try hard things. Sometimes we get there and sometimes we don't. That is self-reinforcing. And so helping, by if you take a look at it, your question actually reflects back onto some of the other aspects like training. Well, if you send somebody off to go to training, okay, and they go to, I don't know, animal welfare training at Bristol, and they come back and they're all fired up to get it done at your plant, and you do nothing about it, that's a choice that you make, okay? And that's probably actually more harmful than never sending them off at all. Okay. And so think about all of those things that you do and how interconnected they truly are. If I could figure out how to graphically represent strive as like one big old circle, I would do it. It just doesn't, read correctly in English. But that's the thing, is that if you want to create a environment where change is appreciated, where failure is appreciated, nothing's stopping people from doing that today. Go be bold. Try something hard and be okay if you fail. Go after the account. Here's the easiest one. Go after the account you think you can't get so you can sell more. All right. Be with that like fluttery feeling of panic when you're going to call up, that big old retail chain and say, I really want to sell you my, my ground beef or whatever it is that you're selling. Start doing those hard things. And as you acculturate yourself to doing hard things, you can coach other people to do hard things and create a coaching environment where people feel comfortable.
Yeah. And where it's okay to fail, because
exactly.
If it's never okay to fail, no one's ever going to try.
Right. You can't really succeed at anything meaningful if you're afraid to fail. It just can't happen.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the participants, or any other key points that you want to make, Michele, before we leave?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody in the audience. Here is my contact information for anybody who needs it. I would be happy to put these into a PDF and send them out. I do hope you'll join us for the masterclass in January. I'm happy to put your name on the wait list. And use the listserv. NMPAN is a fabulous resource. I'm so happy to be here with you all. And thanks so much for organizing all of this. It's been delightful.
Thank you, Michele. And I should say this has been recorded. And so if you have friends or colleagues that weren't able to attend, or you want to refresh yourself the information, we'll have it up on our YouTube channel in about a week. We also have the previous webinar on human resources, and then lots of other webinars on our YouTube channel. So that's a great way to refresh yourself of the information. So, and thank you, Mark, for facilitating. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, long summer day today.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.